Medicare is changing next year, and in this video we're going to talk about how that is. So please stay tuned. My name is Jamie, and excited to welcome a guest onto my channel here today on my YouTube channel, and it is my brother Mark, who actually helped get me started in Medicare in the first place, so I have him to blame for all my problems next year. But we're glad that you're here, and we hope that you find it helpful. And if you are new to either of our channels, make sure you subscribe, hit the like button, and if you have questions about Medicare, leave them in the comments below. So welcome, Mark. It's great to have you.
Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it.
It's good to have you here. So we're going to jump right in and talk about how Medicare is changing next year. There's a lot of buzz around that, and we're going to just kind of talk about some of those changes, and then what I think primarily our goal is to help people understand how they can navigate some of those changes. So
sure.
Right off the bat, I know that you have a lot of thoughts.
On what's changing?
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. Well, I've been doing this since my first open enrollment was in 2010, so over 14 years. So
yeah, 14 years ago.
We've seen a lot, and every year with the annual election period, that's when you see the most disruption. So the way that companies will reimburse or get reimbursed from CMS, that amount changes every year. Mm-hmm. So you may have years where the benefits are very rich. Companies are giving, free gym memberships, free grocery benefits because they're receiving more compensation from CMS. Well, when that percentage goes down, the way that is reflected to Medicare beneficiaries is usually their benefits change.
Sure.
So I like to, there's a common phrase that, most people have heard of, and that is the big print giveth and the fine print taketh away.
Oh, that's good.
So after doing this for, over 14 or 15 years now, the annual election periods are no surprise to me, because what happens is and beneficiaries are lured in with a lot of perks and incentives, but then those can change each year. So I think this year is probably is going to experience the most change with a lot of the information we're hearing, and the two biggest factors are going to be either plans leaving counties that are not, the company deems a county not profitable enough, mm-hmm. because again, unfortunately, these publicly traded companies have to answer to their stockholders.
Sure.
So when the medical loss ratio is not satisfactory,
yep.
You're going to see benefit changes. And this year I think we're going to see a lot of actual, not necessarily just benefit changes, but companies actually closing and terminating plans in various counties across the country. Probably more this year than we've probably ever experienced in the past.
Yeah. So Mark's just getting started on his own YouTube journey, and we'll make sure that we link it on my video so that you can go subscribe to his channel. So one of the things that I always think about when making videos to help educate people, because I think that's both of our primary goals, is to help beneficiaries understand how the program works. One of the main things I don't think people understand, especially I think maybe who choose Medicare Advantage, is what you said at the very beginning, and that is that carriers are compensated for people being members of their plan, right? Mm-hmm, so sure. Can you talk about that? Like if somebody didn't know anything about Medicare, they may not realize that there's dollars going to help fund their plan.
Sure. Yeah, so, this area I kind of geek out on. I kind of like it because unfortunately most beneficiaries, they have no understanding. If you think about when you go to McDonald's, they're brilliant. You order number 1 or number 2, it's all packaged together, and you don't have to think about it.
Right.
Where with Medicare, there's so many moving parts that people get incredibly confused and don't know what to do. Mm-hmm. So each year, it's almost like you'll have years of feast and famine. And so I think this year what's happening, and in all years, what happens is when you are on original Medicare and you enroll in a Medicare Advantage plan, right, you're leaving original Medicare.
Right, yeah.
The Medicare Advantage company now administers all the care, and CMS is going to pay the Medicare Advantage plan. Like, let's say you enroll in a Humana HMO. CMS is going to pay Humana per month for your membership,
Sure,
for your enrollment to do everything.
and that's where they get the extra benefits that you talk about, feast or famine.
Yes.
So
yes.
some years it's better.
Yeah, because original Medicare looks very boring and it doesn't have any appeal to it. And so when you go from looking at original Medicare and you look at a Medicare Advantage, it's like, oh, I get so much, I receive so much more benefit.
Sure.
Right? I've got dental and vision and
Yep.
hearing.
So like in the past, like let's say for a really good year, the company may be compensated a higher amount.
Yes.
So then what the Medicare Advantage companies can do is they can market some of the extra things
Yes.
that original Medicare doesn't offer, like the vision, dental, hearing, in order to sway people to their plan.
Yeah.
Whereas in 2025, it's not going to be a feast year. It's going to be more famine. Companies will have to adjust, and then some of those extra benefits is basically what you're going to see not as much of.
Yeah, and that's really how it is that when CMS is paying companies more, they're going to take any money they can and create more marketing ideas, more perks, more benefits.
Yep.
And I've recently read a report more along the lines with Medicare Supplement that when COVID hit, everyone refrained from a lot of services.
Sure.
In all of the medical world.
Yep.
So now that is, as people are getting back to life, they're getting the surgeries they put off that were not urgent. So the companies are saying we're all of a sudden being hit with all of these claims at one time.
Yep.
And you, the government, are not reimbursing us enough. So the only option we have is to terminate plans in counties or raise copays. And then you have a whole nother process happening where if the providers are not agreeing with the Medicare Advantage companies, they're fighting and they're bickering.
Sure.
So you also stand to lose the potential of losing, your medical doctors and hospitals.
So one thing that I've noticed, there's two different things happening, I think, simultaneously. So people are being, people going on Medicare are really being motivated to educate themselves, and a lot of them are using YouTube preemptively before they choose their plan. So in my experience with my YouTube presence now, I'm hearing from a lot of people who are almost coming to me after educating themselves a lot, but they're preemptively saying, I don't want Medicare Advantage.
Correct.
And so it seems like what's happening is that the crowd is being split, so to speak. There are people who are really into YouTube. They watch a lot of Medicare educational videos, and they are preemptively saying, hey, this is what I want. I've done a bunch of research already. If you compare that with just maybe the average person that I talk to, like at my fitness center, for example, somebody who's on Medicare, they really couldn't tell you what they have. A lot of times, and you've probably heard this, people say supplemental.
Yeah.
And they don't, they really mean Advantage.
Yeah, well, everyone thinks they have Medicare Supplement.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So I'm wondering what's going to happen if you have a combination next year where the benefits decrease, let's just say, and then you get all these people who are being notified that their plan is actually ending.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's kind of how you got me into this in Minnesota in 2018. 60,000 Minnesotans lost their plan. You think there's going to be a market shift where maybe up to this point people have been satisfied with Medicare Advantage, and maybe this disruption's going to make them think twice about it now, or what?
Possibly. I think you're right. And the way people learn is a lot different today.
Right.
Like when we first started, YouTube really wasn't a thing.
Right. Yeah.
I created a video last week, and I spent time on Reddit, and I was surprised and really impressed with how many people are turning to Reddit looking for advice and opinions on.
Yep.
Other beneficiaries that have a plan. What did you think about it? How did you like it? So the way people are learning is way different today. And that's exciting because knowledge is power.
Right.
And I think that's what consumers need, is they need to understand both options. So I think with these changes, I think you're going to have two camps. You have two people that, you have one camp that, they're lower income or fixed income, and Medicare Advantage has actually been a good thing for them.
Sure.
They don't mind referrals. They don't mind, the dreaded prior authorizations. They're okay to just go through the process patiently because the cost is low per month.
Yep.
And then you have another camp that can afford a Medicare supplement. They may have been lured to the Advantage for the freeness in the beginning, but once they had experience with it and they dealt with maybe provider disputes or, prior authorizations is a huge factor that no one talks about. All Medicare Advantage plans have prior authorizations.
Right.
So I'm wondering if these disruptions, plus maybe some things that people have been rubbed wrong in the past, are going to accumulate, and they're going to say, okay, you know what? I'm tired of doing this every year. I'm tired of having to go back to the marketplace. The good thing is, is that if you are on a plan and it does end, that triggers a guaranteed issue right.
For a supplement.
For a supplement. So
Yeah.
if you do, could not qualify medically before, and your plan ends, you can now turn to a Medicare supplement.
Yeah.
So I think people are getting smarter and smarter, and I think the smart ones will see, if I lose my plan, well, I'm going to take advantage of this guaranteed issue opportunity and finally get that Medicare supplement.
Sure.
That I
Yeah.
wanted.
Yeah.
So it's hard to say, we've seen disruption in the past. And again, it's very difficult for people to see past the zero premium.
Right.
So time will tell what will happen. I think the smarter ones were going to opt for that Medicare supplement plan, though.
So that's a good thing for people to remember. If you do lose your Medicare Advantage plan against your will, that you do have those guaranteed issue rights for a Medicare supplement. The one challenge will be, obviously, if you had a $0 Medicare Advantage plan, you're probably going to pay $100 or to $200 now a month for that supplement, so it's going to be a shift.
Yeah.
But you do get some benefits from that, having that premium that maybe you're not used to.
Right.
Like what kind of
Well,
benefits?
and that's just it. I would really challenge people, because you have to think in terms of looking at a 12-month period. When you say zero premium, someone's going to say, okay, wow, tell me more about that one.
Right, yeah.
Right, we all love free.
Yeah.
But when you look at what it costs you, usually on Medicare Advantage, your everyday things are low copays, but if you get into hospital, it's going to get to be more expensive. Yeah. So I would really encourage people to look at, yes, the Medicare supplement has a premium, but how much are you spending per year on a Medicare Advantage? Those accumulated percentage in copays, how much are you actually paying? Dave Ramsey says, if you don't, tell your money where to go,
it flies away to the wind.
It goes everywhere.
Yeah, it goes
right?
everywhere.
So, really look at that. And again, look at what, before you balk at it. And, the thing with the Medicare supplement is you can't even compare it to a Medicare Advantage.
Right. It
is so far superior. And you have more control, freedom, and flexibility. So, you're really getting what you pay for.
Sure.
So
sure.
It all depends on what can you manage.
Right.
Is really what it boils down to.
There's one other thing I wanted to ask you, because I know you did a video about this recently, and you're in some insurance forums. I'm in some insurance forums. I know we dip in and out of them pretty regularly to read what other agents are saying. But it seems like been a lot of agents who have maybe not done the best job of educating beneficiaries on the two paths of Medicare. That's now clearly laid out in the Medicare and You Handbook on page 10. I mean, I'm a broken record on my YouTube channel about this. And in that content on that page, it actually tells you about the networks. It actually talks about prior authorization, all those sorts of things. Do you think that because people are doing a better job of educating themselves, they're probably going to be more picky on what agent they choose to work with? Like, for example, there's a lot of agents, they only sell one company in a couple plans because that's the way they've always done it.
Sure.
And like I know you told me a story recently of a story you heard of an agent. He's going to lose most of his business because of this disruption.
Yes.
So talk about that. If you were going to advise somebody on Medicare who's looking maybe for an agent or, a Medicare guide type of person, what should they look for?
Yeah, great question. And this one is kind of close to my heart because, we're licensed in over 40 states and we do everything online and over the phone.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not a brag or it's a fact that we've talked to a lot of beneficiaries over the years. So if you are new, my greatest warning to you is watch out for Medicare agents. and I mean that in all serious.
Yeah.
Because, when people call us and say, hey, can you tell me about a plan? They'll usually say, oh, I've talked to another agent.
Yep.
And this, that, and the other. Well, what we hear time and time again is how many agents don't follow the Medicare guidelines on like a scope of appointment form.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's a silly form the government says if you want to talk about plans, the agent needs permission.
Right.
Well, agents aren't even doing that.
Right.
So and again, it goes back to knowledge is power. I think as people are able to educate themselves online, when they do need an agent, they're much more prepared. And we train in our office to say, when someone calls and says, I'd like a Medicare supplement plan, we say, okay, do you mean a Medicare supplement or a Medicare Advantage?
Right.
We like to say both because of how confused people are. And it feels good when someone says, no, not a Medicare Advantage. That lets us know that they have understanding of what path they would prefer to be on and what they don't. Because the industry and the agent community heavily pushes Medicare Advantage. Very rarely will an agent do a good job in present both avenues.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a shame because then again they're pushed right into an advantage. They had no idea about a supplement.
Yep.
And now they've missed their guaranteed window, guaranteed issue right window. So, there's a group of a lot of good, YouTube agents,
yep.
That are out there that actually do a really good job.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say a vast majority of agents you need to be very careful with.
Yeah. Do you think that someone should choose, again, I came across a situation this morning already, this early in the day, of an agent, and they're just dialed in and they just do their company and the plans that company offers.
Sure.
I feel like, and I guess this is my perspective, if you choose just an agent that just has one company and the plans that they offer, when this disruption comes along, if that agent doesn't change, right, mm-hmm. then you're kind of stuck with what they can offer you, right?
Right.
And so if your plan is going away, and I know we've heard stories now of thousands of plans being discontinued around the country next year, you need somebody in your corner that's going to say, yes, this plan is ending, here's some other viable options for you, right?
Right. Yeah, I would absolutely agree with that. And a good agent, no matter which company they represent, 1 or 5,
mm-hmm.
The key is can you still get a hold of that agent?
Sure.
And that may sound funny, but you'd be very surprised at how many people call our office and say, I don't know where my agent is, they won't call me back, no matter what the problem is.
Right.
So yes, it's going to be very important that the agent has your best interest at mind,
sure.
at heart.
Yeah.
That can, get ahead of this. Like in our office, we have a plan that it's a smaller amount, but around 250 people are going to be losing their plan.
Okay.
So we're going to be proactive in letting those members know through a phone call, an email, and even a letter in the mail, hey, your plan's ending, let's get ahead of this, let's find an alternative.
Right.
So yeah, you definitely want someone that can present more than one alternative for you, and again, has your long-term interest at mind.
Yep.
Not just the one and done for sale.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
So one more question, kind of as we wrap up this video about disruption next year. Obviously, one of the biggest things is going to be the prescription drug costs being limited to a total out-of-pocket for beneficiaries of $2,000. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is correct.
So talk about, because a lot of the questions that I get, and maybe the agents in your office are getting, is people are really excited or are optimistic about it. Let's say that.
Yeah.
They're like, yeah, we're going to only spend $2,000 out of pocket. How is that, do you think, and obviously this is just your opinion, but how do you think that's going to be, how's the government going to be able to pull that off?
Well, several weeks ago, the sky was falling because this new Part D, cap of $2,000 was coming, and it's very good for the beneficiary.
Right.
But everyone was panicking, thinking, how can the insurance companies absorb this change? Well, just I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks ago, CMS came out and said, surprise, we're going to help the companies get through this and pay them more.
Sure.
So it's going to be very interesting, and again, it's all about time and data, and you really don't know how a plan or a change is going to work until time has passed and claims have been paid.
Mm-hmm.
I think just like anything the government does is that they're going to keep throwing money at it to try to keep it going.
Sure.
I think what happened is they did not want, everyone was afraid that with this change that the beneficiaries' premiums would have to rise to compensate for this lower out-of-pocket expense. Well, I think with it being election year,
that helps.
yeah, they did not want the American people up in arms.
Sure.
So they kind of came in quietly and fixed that. So that's a really, really big change. In medications and prescriptions are probably the highest driving factor of cost in the United States healthcare system.
Right.
So the first year is going to be probably good for everyone. But then I think in 2 and 3 and 4 years, just like we're seeing the changes in Medicare Advantage, the real information and data is going to reveal itself. So the next year or two may be smooth sailing. They'll get data, they'll get claims, trends will come in, and then they'll probably say, okay, now we need to adjust things.
Yeah, yeah. So just to kind of recap as we close out this video, and I've talked about it on my channel. I don't know if you've talked about it on yours yet, but if you are gearing up for what is called the annual election period, the agents called AEP, you definitely want to look for that annual notice of change. It's called the letter that you'll get in the mail anytime now in the month of September. Make sure you compare the benefits that you had in 24 to 25. And, look and make sure that your plan is still going to keep rolling into the new year. If you don't see that, you can always call your company and just ask for that. They'll send it to you. And then make sure that I think the key thing is at least doing a review with somebody, hopefully a trustworthy licensed insurance agent who can kind of help navigate you through those changes. So great to have you on my YouTube channel. I'm excited to be on his because he'll be posting on his, which is Policy Guide. And you can find his website at policyguide.com. So again, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed videos like this, please subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and if you have questions about Medicare, certainly leave them in the comments below. Thanks for watching.